Hey everyone, I'm back. I've now had 2 weeks of classes. This past week went just fine. I had a midterm in one of my classes. I think it went pretty well. I'm still enjoying my classes. I have a finance class and a business law class. They're both interesting, but besides that, I like to keep busy outside of the classes. And so even though I have 4 hours of class a day and homework in the evenings, I still find time to do fun things. And so this week, I actually went to a bullfight, and that was quite an experience. And then later in the week, I had Friday off, and so I visited Casa de Campo, which is a very large park here in Madrid. I was able to go to a bullfight on Monday night. Typically, they're only on Sundays, but I'm here during the Festival de San Isidro, which is the patron saint of Madrid, and it's a huge festival, and for 3 weeks, the best bullfighters and the top bull breeders throughout all of the country come to Madrid and participate in this festival. There's a bullfight every night, and so we went to one, and we were able to see 6 matches, I guess you could call them, and bullfighting is quite an experience. Most people don't know it, but bulls actually die. It's not just a matador waving a cape around. And so there's some distinct phases, and it begins with the bull entering the ring and getting a feel for it and just chasing after some capes. But then in come some people on horseback, and they actually stick them and stab the bull. Hopefully they will loosen up and injure the neck muscles. And so then after the horsemen come what are called bandilleros, and so they actually come with razor-sharp barbs and stick them into the back of the bull. These sticks with these barbs, and so it draws a lot of blood and it injures the bull. And then the matador comes out and waves his cape and wears him down, and at the end, he actually takes a sword and pierces it through this opening in the shoulder blades of the bull and into the bull's heart, and actually kills it. And so it's quite a process. It takes about 20-30 minutes for each bull. It's not considered a sport here. It's actually considered an art, and you have to be very respectful of it. It was quite interesting. I didn't mind it as much as some of the others. A lot of people didn't like the fact that the bulls were killed. I was so on that. But it was quite an experience, because I felt like when I came to Spain, I would have to see a bullfight, and now I've done that. And after the bullfight, we went out as a group to a local place here and had a delicacy that was really good. It's called churros con chocolate, and it's basically churros with a whole cup of chocolate. And so you can dip the churros in, and then you're left with a whole cup of chocolate, and you can drink it. And I didn't want that much, but my friend had 3 or 4 cups of chocolate. And it was really good, and it's kind of a nice way to spend a Monday evening. We don't have classes on Friday, and so I wanted to go to a place in Madrid called Casa de Campo. And it's just basically a huge park. It's got an amusement park, it's got a zoo and an aquarium. It's just absolutely gigantic. To give you a little comparison, Central Park is 840 acres. Casa de Campo is 4,255 acres. Unfortunately, I thought there was going to be more there. It's basically a giant field with lots and lots of trees and dusty trails, and it was really hot the day I went, 80s and 90s, and so I was just trudging along, walking along all these different stops, but at the end, there was a cable car, and so it was really cool to travel across this entire park and get a good view of the entire city of Madrid. I'd heard it was a good view, and that's one of the main reasons I went. There's also a lake there, and so I could see that from the cable car. I could see Palacio Real, which is the royal palace. I could see lots of cool things. And then at the very end, I actually saw a little rose garden. And so I strolled down there after I got off of the cable car and wandered around there. It was a really hot day, but it was still nice to get out and see it. And see this Casa de Campo, which I'd heard a lot about. For the most part, life here is going pretty well. It's not too much of a culture shock. There are a few things that are very different. For instance, for here, almost everyone smokes, it seems. There's also just a completely different lifestyle because the sun doesn't set until really late. it can be 10 o'clock that before you actually notice it and you actually realize you missed supper. There's also a lot of siestas in the afternoon. We fall victim to that as well. We're pretty exhausted, so sometimes we'll just lay down and sleep for an hour or two. But the most difficult thing I would say has been the language barrier. I've had 5 years of Spanish, and it's been 2 years, though, since I actually took a class in Spanish. And so my Spanish is decent, but conversationally it's not enough. I'm living with people who grew up in Venezuela, who one lives in Miami. It's just not on par with theirs, and so I need to rely heavily on them. And so I've actually ventured out on my own a few times and tried to buy things such as groceries. It's been an interesting experience at times. Just this morning I went out to buy a financial calculator for my finance class. I could not find the address. I spent forever. I got lost. I didn't have a map. I could not find my way home for like half an hour, 45 minutes. So I finally just gave up and went to Casa de Campo, which I just told you about. And at the very end, after I visited the Rose Garden, I'm walking towards the metro station in that part of town. And right in front of me is this giant 7-story building called El Corte Inglés, which is the huge department store here, and that is exactly what I've been looking for all morning. And here I just stumbled upon it. So I actually went inside, I used my Spanish, I was perfect with it, I bought a financial calculator, and while I was there, it was just so nice to have 7 stories of just shopping, whatever I needed there. And since I'd been used to just small side street stores, buying a few things here and there, definitely missed that from home. So here it was like a huge department store, it was really nice, and in the basement was a grocery store. And I've been living on a lot of rice, pasta, frozen pizzas. The stores that are around where I live just have not had the ingredients I need to make anything, so I went down there into the basement in the grocery store and I bought everything I needed. So now I can make whatever dishes I want, and it's going to be so nice. And I even bought everything just fine. I've just learned, give me your credit card and your ID, and you don't need to say anything in English, and they don't need to know that you don't speak well at all. And so that's what I've learned thus far. Daily life is pretty good. Spend a lot of free time in the evenings, either just watching movies in the apartment or planning our trips. We'll probably go to Lisbon next weekend, and the weekend after we'll probably go to Barcelona. And so that takes up a lot of our free time, and that's our daily life. That's what we do when we're not in class. We get lost, we struggle with Spanish, and we just sit around the apartment. I guess it could be worse.